How are next generation solutions from ServiceNow driving business value for organizations? In this webinar, experts from inMorphis and Cadent will decode the enterprise journey from Gen AI to Agentic AI, showing how AI agents, intelligent automation, and customer centric design are reshaping modern workflows. Whether you're scaling AI across business functions or exploring what's next after Gen AI, this conversation will provide actionable insights and proven strategies to assess your AI maturity and future proof your digital roadmap. Hello, and welcome to this video webcast titled Insights and Strategies to Accelerate Your AI Transformation, sponsored by inMorphis and CIO.com. My name's Tom Schmidt, contributing editor with CIO Marketing Services, and I'll be the host of this webcast. Joining me is Sunne Kumar, Chief Revenue Officer at inMorphis, an elite ServiceNow partner. In this role, he leads global revenue strategy and customer engagement as the company accelerates its next phase of growth and innovation. With a focus on revenue expansion, strategic partnerships, platform innovation, and agentic AI adoption, Sunne spearheads initiatives to unlock transformative value for clients worldwide. Hello, Sunne.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having us.
Also joining me is Michael Michelini, Senior Vice President of Information Technology at Cadent. In this role, he leads the teams responsible for Cadent's technology infrastructure, cybersecurity, enterprise systems, workplace services, and corporate AI strategy. Hello, Michael.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Sunne. Great to be here.
Sunne, you and Michael have a great story to tell us about the Cadent and inMorphis partnership and how you're using AI to impact the business. So let me hand things over to you to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. And also thank you, Michael, who's our customer, for coming on to share a little bit of his insight, feedback, and so on and so forth. So maybe we could start things, Michael, with just a little bit of a background on the joint work that we were fortunate to do along with you in our ServiceNow journey. And then we'll talk a little bit about where the world is going, where Cadent's going, what you see as the exciting evolution in the years, months and years ahead. So maybe we'll turn it over to you. Just give us a little bit of a background of our joint work and how you see it.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been with Cadent for just over a year and a half now, and I've been a ServiceNow customer in various capacities for more than a decade. And when I joined, Cadent was already using ServiceNow, and there was a lot of work that had been done, but the work that we did was a bit fragmented, and there wasn't a lot of focus, and the partners that they had been using were not really helping in that. Before I get into that, though, I just wanted to tell about Cadent's journey just a little bit. So we're a predictive advertising company. We touch billions of impressions daily across thousands of publishers, across both the inventory side, the demand side, the data side. And so it's critical for us to have a service platform that can handle that amount of workflow and the amount of data that we're touching across our development teams, our service management teams. And so when I joined, we had a partner that was part of a broad technology ecosystem. They were not a focused ServiceNow partner. And really the most important thing in any ServiceNow journey is finding a good partner. Whether that's you bring people on staff, whether that you're doing managed service, having a partner that is right for your business is the most important piece. And it's one partner can be great for another company, but not right for our company. And that's what we learned. And I think that's what led us to inMorphis was we needed a partner that in advertising, the name of the game is being flexible and moving very quickly. And we needed a partner in inMorphis that could do that. And I'll pass it back to Sunne to kind of tell about how we got started. But that's really the important piece.
Sure. No, thank you, Michael. Appreciate the sponsorship and support. And maybe I should also give a little bit of background of myself here. So I was at ServiceNow for about 8 years. Ran a couple of different businesses. My last role was running our telecom, media, and technology business for North America. And I joined inMorphis about, I'd say, 8 months ago. and we're 100% ServiceNow partner. ServiceNow is an investor in our company, so that really keeps us hyper focused. To your point, on Michael, on the ServiceNow platform. 10 years of doing, helping customers get the value really helps us hone that expertise and driving value for our customers. So, when I first met you, I think in middle of last year is when we were in the middle of our journey, and I think we've really established that trust with your teams, our teams. And one of the things I think was very obvious was the transparency, and also in terms of business outcomes. I think we were not talking just technology or dates of certain milestones, all important, but I think the continual conversation was around business, delivering business value to Cadent. I think you nicely summarized at the top what Cadent does and why that we keep as North Star. And I think that's been a fundamental reason. Can we do service now? Of course, we can do that day in and day out, but delivering the business value to customer like Cadent, I know is singular fact that is super important for customers, for us alike. And then maybe in that vein, I can ask you, some of the challenges that you've seen, not just in your current company, because I know you've been a long time ServiceNow customer too, around favorite topic, which probably doesn't get a lot of airtime now with all agentic and Gen AI, which we will talk, but around CMDB and how important that is, which I know you've been very vocal from many years. So please maybe share a few things on that.
Yeah, CMDB is I think the most important piece. But before we dive into the CMDB, I just want to touch on a couple other things
Sure.
around the partner and the relationship that we've had. You talked about pain points. When I started, our our team had just switched from Zendesk to ServiceNow for our customer support. So I'm not just internal IT. My team also manages our external customer support for all of the Cadence self-service customers. So they were using Zendesk and they had just switched to ServiceNow, and very different tools. And so we found inMorphis with that immediate pain point in mind. We were looking for someone that had CRM or CSM expertise. And what we really did to solve that was we kind of reset.
Hmm.
And the partners that I've had the least success with were ones that tried to fit us into a pre-canned box, or they had like their packaged ServiceNow module that they just drop into your system, and it's never worked for me. And inMorphis was really flexible. They helped us reset to what we needed, and to try to make it as seamless for the end user, the actual technicians, as possible. And it was really phenomenal. And I will caveat that by saying flexibility does not mean customization. One of the biggest recommendations I make, and that I'm sure lots of partners will make, is configure ServiceNow, don't customize it as much as you possibly can. And inMorphis helped push us on that journey, but was also very flexible to our needs, and that was really helpful. So,
No, thank
wanted to add that. I think it was really important to just kind of layer in that on the partner piece. Diving in on CMDB, I think is I've been at kind of two main companies that have gone on from the start to ServiceNow, and if I could do it over, I would not launch any modules until I had a fully populated CMDB. That's really hard to do because
you.
you're like leadership, and it's just like, we want to see value, we want you to be using it, and the CMDB is not the flashiest thing
Right.
of the tool, but it's the most important thing. If you're doing approvals, if you're doing change management, if you're tracking assets or service owners, having that data in there is just going to be the foundation from every action, every automation. And as we get into the AI conversation, it's going to be so critical for that.
Yeah, no, spot on, Michael. And that's why I wanted to touch that at the top of our conversation, because it is foundational. If that is not set correctly, all of the other bells and whistles and flash, none of that will work. So I'm really glad that you personally have been a champion of this thought process for years. Even before joining Cadent, I know you've done a lot of ServiceNow work. So thank you for keeping that right front and center. So with that, let's move into something that everybody's talking about, and we're all in this exciting journey of AI. So it's a very broad topic, but we'll maybe hear from you what you're seeing in your space overall, and I'll share some perspectives of what we're seeing talking to customers like yourselves and others in our journey. So please.
Yeah, so at Cadent, as I mentioned, we're handling billions of data points and across all of our both our customers, our sellers, our employees. We knew AI was going to be integral to both our productivity as an employee, but also how we're selling our products. We knew that AI had to go into our platform as most companies are trying to figure out. And so the way we started was in the same way as CMDB is foundational data. We were like, we need a governance process, we need an AI policy, so we know, encouraging people what tools they can use, putting some guardrails around that, policies of what data can be integrated, and that varied by persona. And that led to us to kind of create a strategy across three fronts. We created AI personas at our company, or like how they're using it. There's the customer persona, there's the employee persona, and then the third one was the developer persona. And we've approached each of those with separate strategies and overlapped where we could, but that's helped us put a foundation to our AI strategy that led us to deploying, agents already. We have agents in our platform that are kind of creating value around campaign creation. We've seen tremendous productivity increases from AI tools. What we're doing with ServiceNow and AI is we've just started dipping our toes in. And part of our journey was figuring out the difference of when should you use native AI tool that's built into a product like ServiceNow or Salesforce or something else, or should you have a standalone AI tool like a Gemini or a OpenAI ChatGPT or something like that. And so that was a clear decision that we made, that like certain things would fall under this bucket,
Yes.
but then the native AI functions that are built into ServiceNow, it's going to do it better. And the big piece, the recommendation I would make is that if you're having an AI tool connect to another platform's data, you should be very careful. Meaning, if ServiceNow builds AI on top of ServiceNow, it's going to know the fields, it's not going to know the variables really well, and it's going to be able to handle that data. But if you're pulling in data from, I don't know, like a Salesforce or a Jira or something into ServiceNow, be very cautious and make sure that your data that you're pulling in is organized well, because the more that you feed into a model that's not understands it, it doesn't do as well. So that was a key learning that we made. Goes back to the CMDB, it goes back to data. Make sure that that's really organized before you're connecting it to third-party AI systems.
Great. No, thank you for that reminder and some guidelines. Maybe we'll drill a little bit deeper, Michael, and talk a little bit about generative AI and agentic AI. People sometimes conflate the two, but they're distinct. And then we started with the generative AI journey as all of us in technology, and then moving into agentic. So maybe talk a little bit about in these two maybe buckets where Cadent is and where you see the evolution, and maybe go where is it going next. And then, as I said, I'm happy to share some of the observations we're seeing from a bunch of other customers too.
Yeah, so we started our AI journey, about a year and a half ago, but we really formalized and kicked it off where it got in the hands of everyone in June of last year, where we have kind of generative AI search and summarization tools that are given to the hands of all employees. And that aspect of like before agents was really, we treated it like any SaaS digital transformation program, right? It was about training, adoption, building basic functionality to how do you generate content, how do you search. And that really led to people getting a muscle to just use it in an enterprise setting. As I mentioned, we have now several agents that we've built internally. Some are about to be published, to our customers. And the guidance that I would give from any agent journey is, one, don't try to take your current process and turn it into an agent. you have to rethink the process that you're doing, because the thing that you've been doing manually or even automating with a middleware tool or something may not the
Right.
LLM may not be able to just handle that. And then the other aspect, as you unpack a new process, is to start small. And you a lot of people have heard the like multi-agent or agent to agent integrations. I think that was a really great learning as we started to unpack how you build agents. Is each agent should have a very specific task.
Hmm.
It should be focused, it should have context around that task, right? A task to
Right.
get the information is different than the task to generate the information. And so you have, maybe a parent guided, this is the topic that you're doing, but sub agents will really make the whole process more powerful.
Makes a lot of sense. And from our journey, Michael, what we did was we became client zero. We started with generative AI, gave our employees the tools and access to do the daily job, and we've created an internal site where it's almost like you can do summarization, look at HR, self-service, all of the things that generative AI can do. And then we graduated to agentic as well, where now we have agents that are servicing employees.
Yeah.
When an employee is onboarded, the agentic AI is the one that's really taking that person through a journey, led with a human, of course. But there is a lot of those things that are ingrained in the DNA of the company, because if we can speak that language and if we can assimilate that ourselves, I think it's much easier to translate to a customer. So that was our underlying philosophy, similar to, I think, what you described.
Yeah, we did some similar stuff, obviously from an internal perspective, but the taking from the digital transformation learnings, we got AI champions
Right.
spread around the company, and we did some workshops with them to unpack what are their pain points, what are the use cases that they think we could automate.
Right.
We learned that when we did that early on, a lot of the ideas didn't translate or didn't
Right.
create. So like we've had to rethink and redo some of those workshops and start to
Yeah.
really make sure that as we created new processes, this is not yet ready to be
That's right.
agentified.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's definitely very iterative. Start small is definitely a big guidance.
Exactly. Exactly. And then I'll share some observations across. We have about 80, 85 customers around the globe, scattered between Asia and the US market. And the learnings have been very similar in the sense that everybody is in different phases of the journey. Some have graduated from generative AI and moved into agentic. There are others that are still getting through the generative AI case summarization and the like. So everybody's in different space, which is completely okay. The generative, I think, is fairly straightforward as far as you talked about, which is it's less invasive, so to speak. It's a lot more
Yeah,
predictive, and it's people and technologies come out really well. So I think that's a pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but much more easier lift for most customers, and we're seeing customers more and more adopt it, see the value, and that's pretty straightforward, I think, at this stage. The next iteration of that is
yep,
agentic, and this is where we are having lots and lots and lots of conversations. So I'll share a few perspectives. I'd love to get your feedback as well, Michael, which is the
yeah,
following. In On the agentic side, the question is always around use case by
yep,
use case, because of the challenges you talked about, which is around data, around migration, security, governance, change management. There's a lot of things beyond technology that is super critical. That's number one. Number two, people are still trying to figure out on agentic how everything fits together. And you made a great point about
yeah,
ServiceNow, agentic, and then there are other investments customers have made in other AI
yeah,
technologies. And how does they coexist? How do they work with
yeah,
each other? ServiceNow's got something called Workflow Data Fabric that's got zero touch. It's got the ability to go in and yeah, and have those integrations done, but it's a lot more than just
yeah,
technology. So agentic is a place where we are seeing a lot of use case by use case, proving out the point. And I'll talk about it in three steps. Step one is the pilot or POC, whatever one might want to
yeah,
call it, to prove the point, to say, in a controlled environment, how does it work and does it provide ROI? All of those things, guardrails, all of those things prove the case. Step two is now let us create a mimic the real life scenario, real life environment with 5 or 10 or 20 integrations. How does it work with
Yep.
other systems of record, systems of action, systems of autonomy, whatever they
Yep.
are? And that testing it's a lot more involved than the first one, which is just proving the concept. Now it's proving the case it can indeed live and thrive in the real
Yep.
world. So that second step is where we're seeing a lot of customers, and we're doing a lot of work with customers, helping them get to the third step, which is now finally move it into
Yeah.
production. So those three things, I think, are some things which, and I'll make a statement here, which you may or may not agree. I have not seen any customer move lock, stock, and barrel, the whole kit and caboodle, and say, let's go the whole thing. It's just not
No.
happening. People are doing it, and it's a smart thing because you're learning, test, learn, and ramp. Right? You're testing, you're learning, and then you're ramping. So I just want to
Yep.
pause here and see what you're seeing in your side.
So yeah, an agent is a piece of software.
Yes.
You have to treat it the same way you would any sort of code release or app that you're deploying. You need to do QA and you need to do version controlling and you need to like track ownership. I think something that people get caught up in is that any end user, very accessible. I can go in and I can start documenting instructions and I could create an agent almost self-service. But when it's ready to be published outside more than one person,
Yeah.
it needs to go into your full software lifecycle, and that's where the CMDB is going to
That's right.
really matter. Is that you should have a agent table in
Yeah.
there should be each agent should have its own CI, and it should have the full ownership
Yeah.
and who's business stakeholder that's going to approve it and who like you treat it the same way as you would to integrate two apps that you've built internally, and it'll be more successful because then you're going to have the grounding of your engineering team or your QA team or whatever to validate that before it just gets published out to internally, but even more importantly to the world if you're doing anything. So I think that's really important.
No, great point. And I think it also brings up the point around security, because this is something which is now heightened because you can have agents sort of running amok if you
Yeah.
don't have that security, guardrails baseline, which is no coincidence. ServiceNow made these two big investments in Veza and Armis to buy the security stuff, right? So it's not just technology again, it's the thought process, it's the governance, it's the strategy behind it, which is extremely critical. And that's again something we're seeing with customers, all sizes, small customers, large enterprise. How does this fit into the actual world, real world of software and the entire stack? It's an important question.
Yeah, and I lead our information security team as well, and so it's certainly that's probably the thing that as any technology leader will
Yeah.
keep me up at night. We've done a lot of investment in ServiceNow. Our SecOps, we're using the SecOps
Yeah.
module. We have incidents going into there, and we have security dashboards. Shadow IT has been a big buzzword for a long time around SaaS, but Shadow AI is now a big concern for me. And because it's so accessible and there's so many things out there that we can block and we can put in policies, but we also want to let, especially our engineering teams, explore. So monitoring that sort of stuff to make sure that the employees are following the right policies, that they're not putting data in insecure things, or they're configuring OpenClaw on your servers or something is very important. So yeah, just as much as the how AI is excitement, the potential security risks and data privacy risks around it is something you have to pay attention to.
No, thank you, Michael. One topic you did talk about, but I want to just go a little bit deeper and get your perspective of, which is a real challenge all our customers are having, and it's a good problem in a way. You've got investments in various AI technologies. Everybody does, right? How are you seeing which goes where and the interplay across these different technologies? Just maybe guide us a little bit on how you're thinking.
Yeah, we've had to do a lot of firm reminders and policies to, because
Hmm.
especially before the enterprise got to AI, ChatGPT became ubiquitous, and it's
That's right.
something that our grandparents started referencing, and so you knew that we had to catch up. And so we've had to do a lot of, like, we have our enterprise sanctioned AI tools, and though we get a lot of like, well, this other AI tool hallucinates less, or it's
Yeah.
learned personalization, and so I want to use that. And so we've had to really be kind of put our foot down on a lot of that such type of usage. And then for the enterprise tools, what we made the conscious choice was, again, what type of data we would connect to it. And so
Mm.
we started small. And so when we integrated, from one AI tool to another, we're doing data that's structured or organized or simple. So like we're going to look at data in OneDrive or SharePoint before we're going to look at data in Salesforce or something like that, because it's,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's documents versus multiple various fields. And we've seen a lot of success by starting small with give the LLM information that's easier to digest rather than try to give it a lot of custom variables or configurations. And we've seen success with that.
That's great. What about do you have any use cases? You talked about agents that you've built that are doing a bunch of things. Is there anything top of mind that you'd like to share with the viewers, the audience, on something which it doesn't have to be anything rocket science, but something that you've done,
Yeah.
your team's done, which is in production, that's driving value?
Yep.
Anything? Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I'd start with by saying is that what agent you build is different for what's important to your company, and what
Right.
the problem statements for Cadent are different from another company.
Sure.
We knew, so Cadent has grown through acquisition for since its inception, from a kind of like a traditional video platform to digital. Now we've just acquired a YouTube company, and so we're now kind of full advertising ecosystem. And through that process, you bring in a lot of tools, you bring in a lot of people
Yeah.
with different processes. Most importantly for us was our GTM, our sellers. And so we focused our AI use cases on them. And so
Mhm.
in one fold, we've done things to automate the selling process from prospecting, so that, helping our sellers take information from LinkedIn or from the web and then organize it then to then create an email to, draft a pitch to a prospective customer. We've done some stuff from taking data from Salesforce and all the leads that have been generated across all sellers, taking that data and doing some like agentic scoring to say, based on the size of the industry and the accounts you have, these are the customers that you should go after. So we've given them some kind of guidance on that. And then we're an advertising company, so doing campaign planning for our customers is probably the most important operating thing that we do. And so twofold, in our platform, we now have an agent that we've published to some customers in beta called Campaign Health. And
Okay.
so they can log into our platform and they could go and run reports, and they could like crunch the numbers themselves on
Mhm.
how is my campaign performing? Am I hitting my target metrics? And is my
Sure.
spend thresholds hitting the right levels? We now have a sidebar for them where they can chat with their campaign, and they can see the health of the campaign through the agent that we've built. And so that we've gotten incredible feedback on. And then we're also starting to develop agents for our yield planners and our operations team that are building those campaigns for customers on our managed service side, where it's taking all the data points and it's kind of generating the potential outputs for that. And so that's kind of, I think, the next agent that we're really working on.
That's fantastic. And again, I think you proved the point on going use case by use case, making it
Yeah.
real strong and secure with data integrity, and proving
And
the ROI, the point, and moving to the next step. I have a couple of examples that I'll share. We're seeing with customer, we're working with customers. One is in the employee onboarding stage. So
yeah.
we've developed agents that, in the past, it was a human agent walking somebody through the entire steps, or there was a workflow. But now there is an AI agent that's guiding the person, the new employee, through the various process that they have to go through in terms of onboarding, learning, laptops, all of those things, and that makes it very seamless, keeping the human in the loop or lead, however they may choose it. But that's an important aspect where it's taking down a lot of inefficiencies, and the new joiner is able to interact with the AI agent just like he would or she
Yep.
would with a human agent. So that's sort of one example on the internal side. On the external side, a lot of our customers are working on case intakes. So where they have cases coming in through various channels, through email, voicemail, text, SMS, whatever, all multimodal. And now, in the past, there would be a human being who would triage the call or the case, disposition it, and do some remediation, and that would obviously take time. Even if you work on a 24-hour follow the sun model, there is always a latency. But now with AI agents, the AI agent is able to intake all of these cases through whatever medium, triage it, and in many cases, in one of the accounts where it's able to analyze the sentiment, and then in some cases really pass on like a dollar coupon or something. There's a B2C customer where it's able to pass something on to retain the customer, because the cost of solving that problem is far greater than just giving something away in terms of a coupon or something. And all of this happens in milliseconds versus back in the day it used to take hours and days and weeks and cause customer sat issues. So those are simple examples, but this is where we're seeing people are proving the case, proving the ROI, and then getting to do more fun things, which is more complicated, no question. But because this one example I gave you was very, unidimensional in one domain, in one business unit, but then you get into areas where it has to touch 5 systems. The AI agent has to go in and do some work across multiple systems, get the data, feed it. And that's when you get into hallucinations. That's when you get into data integrity. So a lot of those challenges are still being worked on. I wouldn't say anybody has completely solved it. There are different stages in which, and technology is getting better every day, every week as we see it. But those are some examples of what we're seeing, Michael, in the space.
Yeah, you brought up several. Those are really cool ideas, and you brought up several important points from that too. It's AI and agents are still very early, right? Everyone that's doing and building agents is early adopters
Right.
at this point. This is not a mature space, and we made the conscious choice. All of the agents and the use cases I've talked about, they're all read only. None of them are sending an email. None of them are writing to any of the systems. They're generating, they're
No,
giving
no.
feedback. It's always a human that's validating still. We have not taken
Sure.
that leap to have any of our AI take action in another tool. They're pulling data in and they're
Yeah.
reading it and they're generating and they're summarizing, but I think it's really important that you still have a human validate all those responses. And to your example where you have 5 systems, ideally the service owner for all 5 of those systems should validate any outputs before that.
Yes.
That's sometimes cumbersome to do, but like you need to think about that to
Yeah.
make sure that the data coming out of the system you own, you're okay with
Yes.
that going and having some robot do something.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that's, to your point, that's what we have done as inMorphis. What we have done is we've taken ServiceNow's out of the box capabilities and we've built 30 agentic use cases which customers can deploy pretty much right away, where it's simple, basic, but it's one step beyond what ServiceNow provides, delivers out of the box. Just based on all these examples, the more and more we do these things, we said, why not package this AI agent as a service? And that's what we're going and talking to ServiceNow and our customers. And it's getting a lot of traction because everybody wants to prove the point first before they go and get funding for doing some extremely cool things. So we've personally seen a lot of traction in fact, I was just in a meeting last couple of days with a few customers and ServiceNow, and we showed them the list of 30 instantaneous reaction. Let's get this POC, let's prove the point, and then it will help me get to the next layer. One other point, Michael, I want to also touch upon and get your feedback is as the agents mature, as you said, we are in the early innings of a long innings, hopefully, of this journey. Sure. The idea is that a human being has a lot more insight and intel other than just the system. So there is context.
Yep.
There is the stuff beyond the systems, what a person knows. The AI agent, unfortunately, does not have that context. So now there is the context, or they call it ontology, which is the ability to have context around a particular problem. Several examples. One might be just top of mind, may or may not make sense here, but something like, let's say there is a supplier who is sending you something with the AI agents looking at it and then declining it, saying, no, it's not going to work. But what it's missed is the CEO, our CEO met with the CEO of the supplier last night, and they had a conversation on email. And the CEO sent a Slack message to somebody saying, hey, I need you to make this exception, but it's not yet coded in the system, in the actual system. A human being would recognize and say, oh, yeah, my CEO's done this. The AI agent does not. But now the idea is the AI agent, the way it's happening or the way it's being built is now it's able to go around Slack, it's able to go around emails, it's able to go around and figure out the context and see, am I missing something? Should I take that into consideration? And then come back to a human agent and say, hey, listen, I saw this stuff on Slack. Our CEOs are talking. What do you think? Like stuff like that, which is now the next step to I wouldn't say a dumb agent, but a basic agent wouldn't do that. But now the next level agent is able to take all of that context. And this is some simple example on internal data. Think about external geopolitical stuff. Is it able to now take all of that information and insight and then come back to the human and say, based on all this, this is what I think we should do. So stuff like that, which is super exciting. People are still trying to figure all that out, but I just wanted to see what your thinking was on that topic.
Yeah, it is really exciting and a little unnerving maybe as well, but I mean, as you were talking about that, you just kept reminding me of the CMDB as well, to bring it right back to ServiceNow is in whether it's Slack or email or ServiceNow, the more structured that data is or that it's labeled, your agents are going to do better faster, right? Eventually, the models will have the reasoning to just find the context and they'll search all your data. But until then, it's really important to, if you have a process and just add a field that says the CEO must do this thing on this action right into the field or to put it into your instructions. Right. Something that we did in our training when we kept repeating it to people is that when, search launched with Google in, the early 2000s, it was keyword. It was like one word, it would find it and it would just type quick and it would go. Chatting or interacting with AI is you have to give it context and it's complete sentences or it's more thorough instructions into your agent, or it's to organize and label your data in a way that it will find that context for you, whether that's putting dates into subject lines or adding new fields that will tell the agent how to act. I think is really important to make this successful.
Beautiful. I think as we're coming towards the sort of the end of our conversation, two things. Is there anything we did not cover, Michael, that you want to share? And the last question would be, what parting words of wisdom do you have for our fellow brothers and sisters, listeners, audience, just from your experience?
Yeah, I think that I think we're kind of talking about AI or just ServiceNow in general. If you want ServiceNow to be successful for, your IT team, for your technology team, or for any other aspect of the business, and when you're deploying AI, it starts small. If you find a resistance from one area of the business, if you're trying to deploy ServiceNow to finance or facilities and they're saying, I don't understand it, or I'm trying to deploy an AI agent somewhere in the business and it's not working, go elsewhere. Find quick wins, get momentum going, and then you will quickly get FOMO from the rest of your organization of like, that finance team's doing this amazing thing. The sales team wants to get on board. And so we have a backlog of 50, 100 use cases that people are waiting for us to build. And so, we'll need resources like inMorphis to help us on that journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Michael. Thank you. Maybe I can share a couple of things from our side. So we are, as we talked about at the start of the call, we're a 100% ServiceNow shop. We are working actively with all of our customers on AI. That's just not a fact. It's a fact. Like, that's happening. The other area we're also working pretty heavily is around the front office, CRM, CPQ. There's a lot of excitement in the market. ServiceNow has just begun that journey, I'd say, in the last few years. And we're actively in conversations with a lot of our customers on that end. And sort of in closing, I'd say, Michael, any other thoughts if you have? Otherwise, I think it's been a beautiful journey. Thank you for your sponsorship, your guidance. We look forward to working closely, partnering, growing our joint business, and delivering value to you and your team.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you. The pleasure. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Tom and CO.com Foundry for sponsoring this.
abs-
The last point I'd make too is just that y- you're not far behind on AI as you think you are. Like everyone is still learning and everyone is still really early in this journey.
that's a great reminder for all of us. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Tom, over to you.
Very good. Excellent conversation. Excellent points. Well, that's about all the time we have for today's webcast. I want to give a big thanks to our speakers, Sunne Kumar of inMorphis and Michael Michelini of Cadent, for sharing their expertise and insights with us today. Thanks especially to you, our viewers, for tuning in. Please be sure to check out the resource list for some valuable information to download from our sponsor. For inMorphis and CIO.com, I'm Tom Schmidt.